Hey folks, welcome to verifiedinvesting.com. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here. Now, in today's video, we're going to look at Bitcoin. We're going to do a full technical analysis review. What are the key levels? What's the price action telling us? And as always, remember here at Verified Investing, it's no BS, just charts. In other words, the charts don't have narratives or hype to them. They are just what they are. All right, let's dive into the charts here of Bitcoin. We're going to start with no lines on the chart and work our analysis forward, right? And so I think that's the beautiful thing about this. I can show you guys literally where I'm drawing my trend lines, how I see these things, and teach you as much about technical analysis as I can. So anytime I see a market that's been rising, I start to say, okay, well, is there a longer term trend line that connects all of these highs? And you guys have seen this before from me, but if you take your high from the bull market of 2017, connected through the highest point, notice it's not this point, because it cuts through right here. It would cut through that level, right? So again, we can just put it right there. So yeah, you could go there, but then look, it went right through here and right over there. So let's do it to the exact high right there, to the highest point. Now let's extend this even further. Let's keep going and going and going. And lo and behold, look at what we get. We get this high and it goes right to these highs right up there. I mean, literally to those pivot points there. So now what we have is a very clear resistance line that's developed on the Bitcoin chart. And so as a technician, for me, I say, okay, well, every time we hit this trend line, we get a pullback, right? Big pullback in 2017, right? That was the bear market. We had this pullback. It wasn't the high of the bull market in 2021, but from this point, we dropped from about 65,000 to 30,000. Here, these have been much smaller pullbacks. Part of that, I think, is the adoption by institutional investors and other places. But you had the pullback from this line. It came down there. So it went from about 123,000 down to 111,000. Then here we made a new all-time high, and we from 124,000 down to 107,000. And then here, this one could arguably be the biggest drop. In fact, it is. We hit 126,000 and we bottomed out at around 107,000 before this recent bounce. But suffice it to say, as a chartist, the purity of this is just beautiful, right? Because we know now where the big resistance level is on Bitcoin. It's that trend line, right? I mean, this is what has shown us. Now, please understand, it doesn't mean we can't break it. It just tells us that probability wise, it's unlikely. So if you look at odds, let's say this trend line, which has so far been perfect, but let's give it a classification of 80%. So 80% of the time out of, let's say, 100 times of this line, it should hold. That means 20% of the time it could break through. And that's where we are right now. If it comes back up, is that part of the 20% where it could break through? Or is the 80% going to be the answer again? And for me, at least, I go with the higher probability, right? And again, that's what technical trading is about, is really ignoring the emotion that we all say, and, oh, I really want Bitcoin. I think it's going to go to 1 million. Okay, you think, but that's not a fact, right? That's not a thesis. It's not something that would hold up in a charting, court of law, if you will. And so that's important, guys, right? So right now, if we were to rally up here, the idea would be the probabilities would favor a rejection. And now it would be a new all-time high there. So that's important to know, right? It would be an all-time high, but it would still be a point where we would assume price would get rejected. All right. So we know our upside resistance. So great bounce here after the crypto crash last Friday. Again, Bitcoin dropping, but really, if you look at some of the other altcoins, those were some unbelievable falls. I mean, really just remarkable drops on those other coins. But anyways, the point being, we have our resistance. Now let's find our support. So the first thing we do is we go back a ways too. And let's say, okay, so this here gives us our bull trend, right? So if we look at this, here's your lowest point here. I'm getting it right to that low, goes through here. You pierced it and you got below it, but look, it reestablished right to here. So this, to me, this line makes the most sense for now, right? Now, again, we may, things can adjust, but as of now, this trend line to me is the one I'm following. This is your uptrend. And so the idea of this line is to tell us that even if we were to go lower, as long as we hold this level around 91, 92,000, well, then Bitcoin's still in an uptrend. I mean, isn't that quite remarkable to think that Bitcoin could fall from 126,000, which is its all-time high, to 92,000, and technically it's still in an uptrend, even at that point, right? So again, we have to kind of just shape this and say, okay, these are the ranges on Bitcoin. Now, if we go to the chart again and we say, okay, well, is there a level in between? Like, well, that's a long way away. 115,000 where we're currently trading down to 92. I mean, what's the level that tells us it could be going there? And I'm going to show that to you right now. So the level I am watching here, folks, is this one. Okay, so really right from here, we drag it up, and that is your trend line. Look at the beauty of that trend line, right? So pierced here, but it really didn't get through. Touched here, and right through these. And to be honest, this looks like it extends right out into here as well. But my point being is that I'm going to change the color on this to keep it as simple as possible. The key here is, can Bitcoin hold this trend line? Now, as long as it holds this trend line, then this becomes support, and we could go attack this, right? We could go attack the all-time highs. If by chance we break this level, well, it opens the door to a bigger drop. Not only that, but if we break this, and by the way, this is about 110,000, but if we break this level and confirm, then once you confirm below a level, it solidifies that level as major resistance. So if we start trading down here, this now becomes major resistance, and it's a lot harder to get back to the all-time highs on Bitcoin. So if you're a bull, you really want Bitcoin to hold 110,000 on a daily closing basis, or use the confirmation signal that I've taught all of you guys in my Winning Trader series course. Okay. Now, the only other thing that has me slightly concerned here on Bitcoin, even though it's still technically in the upper zone of an uptrend, is that this here is the beginnings of what could be a head and shoulders pattern. Now, again, I want to encourage you to understand is that head and shoulder patterns are bearish, right? But this one is not fully formed yet. And so until it fully forms and breaks the neckline, it's not a big deal. Like, it's just something that as a trader, you kind of make a mental note just to keep an eye on it in case it were to form fully. Now, if we go back to the charts, let's look at that. So what would that be? Well, you have your left shoulder here. Here's your obvious head. Are we coming up? Okay, well, we're coming up. We're coming up. If we start to curl back down, now you have a head and shoulder pattern. Okay. All right. So again, we'll keep an eye on that as things go and watch and see. All right. But these are little things that I just pay attention to in the chart. And so just talking about Bitcoin right now, Bitcoin would have a neutral to bullish bias. Why? Because you're still above this midpoint line here. This is kind of like uptrend. So you're in the upper ends of a bigger uptrend, but we have to still respect our high around 126, 127,000 up here, right? That's so you haven't broken out. So there's limited upside until we break out above here. If it were to break here, now it goes more towards a neutral bias with a bounce here. I would definitely be a buyer here for Bitcoin. If it breaks here, the uptrend is broken. That's where really people would start to get concerned with it. All right. That would really be where things get a little bit nastier. All right. So that's really your Bitcoin update. As always, folks, I am here to give you guys my viewpoints, my technical analysis. Again, for those of you that don't know me that maybe are tuning in, again, I've traded now for almost 27 years, coming up to 27 years in early 2026. And again, these are technical trading analysis points that are institutional based. It's not like the basic stuff that you're going to just see on YouTube. The idea is I want to bring more to the table. And I see you guys from the comments that you appreciate it, and it just makes me want to give more and more to you guys. So I'm more than happy to do that. I just show it to friends and family. Like, if you think someone out there could be helped by this analysis, more of a logic-based approach instead of just emotion, hype from social media or narratives from mainstream media, this is where you go. Because honestly, this is the only place that I've been able to go where the technicals and logic help me put myself on a high probability course to profits each trade. Doesn't mean I win every trade. I certainly don't. But it just keeps me on that high win rate percentage. The rest takes care of itself. You guys have a great one. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Talk to you soon. Take care.